But I did weave some New Zealand Warriors disappointment in there. And now we talk about Aotearoa Warriors disappointment. They lost to the Canberra Raiders 30-8. And we'll get into some nitty-gritty, a lot of nitty-gritty to discuss. But I can only start with my experience of watching the Warriors play rugby league. It's boring. Like, I do not have fun watching the Warriors play rugby league. Now, the good news is it's the same as last year. So all the Aussie preseason insight, even the New Zealand media, how do the Warriors deal with the loss of Sean Johnson, Tohu Harris, Adam Whanua-Blake, Marcelo Montoya, key losses? The good news is, Warriors fans, it was the same. So you lost all those players who, let's be honest, the Warriors played their best rugby league football without last season. But it's the same. You lose those players, it's the same. Last year, there was a sweeping kind of wave of this realization that I just don't have fun watching the Warriors. To be honest, it started round one when they lost to the Cronulla Sharks at the Mount Smart Stadium behind you. That was boring. That wasn't fun. The Warriors were clunky. They weren't very good defensively. They don't really do anything outstanding. Like, there's not necessarily an identity to their style of play. They do have that stat profile that I've talked a lot about all summer, but that doesn't actually translate into, we are the Warriors and we play rugby league this way. This is what we do. Come into round one, yes, it's in Las Vegas. But regardless of whether it's in Las Vegas, whether it's in Dunedin, whether it's in Apia, wherever you want to play this game, all these NRL teams, this is something to laugh at as well. All these NRL teams, they all do the same preseason. They all do the summer training. They all do these hype videos. They all talk it up. In theory, they're doing the same skills and drills. They're doing the same fitness. Then you come to round one, and there are teams who play really well, and there are teams who don't play really well. We've had 3 round ones under Andrew Webster. The first one was pretty good because the first season was pretty good. That was in Wellington against the Newcastle Knights. Now we've had back-to-back round ones in which the Warriors have been underwhelming. And I like Andrew Webster, but I'm gonna push up against Andrew Webster in this rant, in this glorified rant that I'm doing about how boring the Warriors are, because round one footy reflects on the coach. It reflects on all the work you've done over the summer. So if you're not playing good rugby league in round one, what have you been doing? Because in theory, you've been working hard, you've been training hard, you've been doing all the skills and drills and fitness. We got all the social media content. Yeah. Fantastic. But you show up round one and you're just boring. So we've had that for 2 round ones in a row, back-to-back seasons. That makes you wonder, well, what aren't they doing over summer? And I hope this is like a humbling moment for everyone at the Warriors, because you come out in round one, you play like that, you got to do some self-reflection, like, wait, what are we actually doing? What is the training we're doing? Because, okay, the Raiders. Wait, let me start with the Panthers. 20-time defending champs, whatever they are. They are the upper echelon. They are the standard of the NRL. They come out round one, they got all these funky moves. Everything is crisp. They know, like, they're playing at a high speed, high tempo. They had the same kind of shift it wide, but then shift it back into the middle. Set play that they did a few times in that game. Hadn't really seen that too much before. You know that is something they've been working on all summer. Okay, that's the standard. That's the Panthers. They're an awesome rugby league team. Rugby league perfection, I'd say. The Raiders, up and down like the Warriors. But they come out round one and they've got a clear plan. They're offloading the footy. They're using their speed. They're doing what they want to do, and they do it. They execute it. So you can tell that they've been building all summer to this moment of how they want to play rugby league, especially in round one. None of that's there for the Warriors. In fact, they do the opposite. They're slow. They're sluggish. There's no crisp attacking movements. There's no clear style of play. And they lose 30-8. And of course, they go to Las Vegas. It's all hyped up. It's all talked up. They get smoked by the Raiders. And the assistant coach has a drama. This is like a round one tour of Las Vegas nightmare. This turned out in the worst case scenario. Or everything leading up to the game was based on the best case scenario. Yeah, the Warriors, we're taking it to the world. We're going to show people about the Warriors. Well, you show people about the Warriors because you lost 30-8. But then you add in this little coaching drama, little coaching scuffle, whatever happened. I don't know. I don't care. But that is to say the whole game experience was pretty terrible. What was something that I talked about all off season with the Warriors as a basis to be optimistic heading into 2025?
I think I know this one. I believe you're talking about the need for speed.
The need for speed. The Warriors, in theory, they had a faster team for 2025 than they did for 2024. Then we start the game against the Raiders, and I'm kind of disgusted. Again, I like Andrew Webster. I like the two Andys. I like what is happening at the Warriors across all levels. But we come into this game, and Jackson Ford is starting in the middle, officially listed as a prop. And he plays 51 minutes. So right there, the whole basis of my optimism, well, the middle forward who offered speed, he's not there. He's on the bench. And let me see how many minutes Aaron Clark played, 46. So he played less minutes than Jackson Ford. Only a few minutes less, but less minutes than Jackson Ford. But Jackson Ford's not fast. He's not very powerful. He works hard. But does he work harder than any other NRL player? I don't think so. But that one selection set the tone for my whole experience. So what are we doing? Why is Jackson Ford starting? Why is Jackson Ford playing 51 minutes? And I'm pretty confident Jackson Ford played the whole first half. Jackson Ford played 51 minutes straight. He played the first 51 minutes of the game. And the Raiders in that period had scored 4 tries. So that didn't work.
Well, one of those tries as well, I'm pretty sure I think it might have been their second try, came specifically off the back of a line break, because I remember thinking the same thing about, I don't think Scotty's going to be too happy that Jackson Ford is starting this game ahead of Aaron Clark when they announced that one. I remember thinking that, and then I remember also thinking, I'm not sure I'm too happy about it either. I don't quite see the point of that. So I noticed that when Jackson Ford was slow to get up at around the ruck for one of those ones, and they ran straight through the thing. It was a big gap there, and I'm like, who's left that gap? Replay. Jackson Ford, right? Okay,
Whoa.
the ex-Dragon player, but yeah.
That you've sparked up another thing, because yes, Jackson Ford was involved in that play, but the commentators kept talking about Jackson Ford, where it was actually live in the play. Wade Egan was called out of the play. So
Right.
he was at marker, but he was offside at marker. So the referee said, Wade, 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 you're off. So then he didn't make the tackle. So then the runner could keep running and expose the hole that Jackson Ford, well, expose the hole around Jackson Ford. So that's a different kettle of fish. Now I don't want to get into like just moaning about commentator territory, but that is an example of how the commentator says something which makes the viewer think that that was a fact, that that happened. But it was actually
Well, it did
Wade.
in that case, but it
Exactly.
also was not the whole story.
Well, because he was, I think it was Braithen Astor was actually the best commentator of those three, which is kind of crazy. But I don't like any of the NRL commentary. So again, I'm wary of just complaining and moaning. I don't want to do it, but it's important to note, like, because he kept saying Jackson Ford was called offside when it was actually Wade Egan at marker. Now this
Right.
goes back to the start of the game, where Matty Johns, who is one of the most celebrated rugby league minds and personalities, he kept saying the big Warriors forward pack. Oh, the Raiders, they're working over the big Warriors forwards. Well, they're really troubling them. The big Warriors forwards, they're getting tired. The Raiders forward pack is bigger. Right? Joseph
Your old
Tarpanay's
mate
big.
Papali'i there.
Tarpanay's bigger than Fisher Harris. Papali'i's bigger than Barnett and Corey Horsburgh. He's bigger than Jackson Ford. Hudson Young. Oh, he's about the same size as Kurt Capewell. Zach Hosking. He might be smaller than Maratania Corey, but he also might just be like 1 centimeter shorter, a few kgs smaller. Like the Warriors, regardless of compared to the Raiders, the Warriors forward pack's not big. This isn't a big Warriors forward pack. But Matty Johns, all he kept saying in the first half, it's a big Warriors forward pack. No, it's not. It's a small forward pack that is meant to be mobile and fast, but they're not fast because Jackson Ford is slow. Like, everyone's kind of slow there. The only fast blokes in that forward pack, Aaron Clark, Dimitri Vaimunga relatively, and Leka Halasima relatively.
So the three that were on the bench.
The three guys who, well, two of them only got game time once the game was over, and Aaron Clark, who came on after the starting forward pack, was rolled by the Raiders. But it's not, they got rolled because the Raiders forward pack is bigger. But the Raiders are also a faster team throughout their whole team because you got Kyle Weeks at fullback, Xavier Savage on the wing, Matthew Timoko at center. Like, all those dudes are fast for their positions. So when you combine a bigger forward pack, because the Warriors is a small forward pack, when you combine that with offloads and speed, that's how the Raiders win. Like, it's no point offloading if your team is slow and you can't do anything with the offloads. But if you got your speed around the middle and you got your speed on the back of the offloads, well, then you're going to work over the opposition. But to my point about this being a small Warriors forward pack, James Fisher-Harris started at the Panthers as an edge forward. Mitchell Barnett often plays edge forward. Jackson Ford was an edge forward. Aaron Clark, in his junior days, he was a half. Then he became a hooker. Then he became a small forward. Dylan Walker, when he started, he was a center. Then he was a half. Then he was a small forward. Dimitri Vaimunga, like, I'm pretty confident he was playing fullback in some junior rep game back in the day. Then he kind of became like a hybrid edge middle. Leka Halasima. He's an edge middle who spent most of his debut at center. Now, of course, James Fisher-Harris, he's been playing prop for a long time. Mitchell Barnett often plays through the middle. Aaron Clark, Dylan Walker, they are small forwards who play through the middle. But to my point about them not being big forwards, they don't come, like, they're not big boppers. They didn't grow up playing through the middle as big boppers. Most of them started on the edge, which that's a clear style of rugby league player that Andrew Webster wants, which is okay if, like, yeah, it's okay. You can have whatever type of player you want, but, like, you can't say this is a big Warriors forward pack, especially when the Raiders are bigger. So that was very weird, but with respect to Matty John's infinite rugby league wisdom, none of it was as weird as Jackson Ford starting the game and playing 51 minutes. Also because I can name a very strong New Zealand Warriors top 17 and Jackson Ford's not there. Right, so, like, another issue, and this is what I wrote in the paid section of the Substack newsletter. I'm not confident that the Warriors have an 80-minute edge forward right now. Kurt Capewell played a lot of 80-minute games last season, played 67 minutes here. The game was already decided, so I'm not too fussed like that. He can play 80 minutes, but I don't know if him playing 80 minutes is the best thing for the Warriors. Because he does good stuff, but he's not one of the best edge forwards in the game right now. And you could say he's actually got worse since joining the Warriors. Funny that, that's a story we know well. Marata Niukore rarely plays 80 minutes. He's not an 80-minute edge forward. So this becomes an issue when you're starting to rotate your bench players through into the game. I still want Jacob Laban there, because he can play 80 minutes and he's going to learn how to play 80 minutes. But then you can rotate Niukore off the bench through the middle or through at edge forward. And Niukore can give Laban a spell, he can give Capewell a spell. But you got to start giving Laban a crack at 80 minutes on an edge. But again, this is Andrew Webster, who doesn't want to play young players. But again, going back to last season, the best Warriors games were the games where the young players played a lot of footy. It's all very messy. So when I get into my top 17, what did I write down? My forward pack. Because Jackson Ford's not playing in the back line, right? We're not putting Jackson Ford at centre, surely. Surely not Andrew Webster. Surely you're not doing that. You might, though. He might also put him in the halves, because I don't know if the halves are doing much. But so my best Warriors forward pack: James Fisher, Harris Wade, Egan, Mitch Barnett, Kurt Capewell, Jacob Laban, Aaron Clark. And my bench: Dylan Walker, Dimitri Vaimonga, Leka Halasima, Marata Niukore. Jackson Ford isn't there. He's probably not going to be 18th man. And I'd rather have Bunty Afoa than Jackson Ford. If I have to rank them, I'm ranking Bunty Afoa ahead of Jackson Ford. He's bigger. He's more powerful. He runs harder. He makes meters. He also works hard. Jackson Ford works hard, but he doesn't work harder than anyone else. So this is, again, I'm not the coach. The coaches, the players, they know a lot more about rugby league. But this, in my mind, I have this battle where I don't have Jackson Ford in my top 17, but round one, Jackson Ford's the starting prop and he plays 51 minutes. And in those 51 minutes, the Warriors suck. But also, why is Dimitri Vaimonga coming on when the game's over? Why is Leka Halasima coming on after the game was already kind of decided? These players could have been injected into the game to change the momentum, to change the style of footy the Warriors will be playing in the first half. But they weren't. So, you didn't even try to change how the Warriors were playing. You didn't try to shake things up. You just let the same players do the same shit, and you got the same result because the Raiders kept scoring tries. Sure, Though not all of those tries were from Raiders dominating the footy. Some of those tries were from mishaps from the Warriors, which is again the issue. It did remind me, like, not only was the experience the same as watching the Wellington Phoenix, where I just don't have fun. Like the Warriors, there's no razzle-dazzle about the Warriors. There's no attacking flair about the Warriors. There's no oomphes. There's no big shots. There's no offloads. They're slow with Jackson Ford in the team. And like, so Wade Egan's coming out of dummy half. Wade Egan played 80 minutes. Wade Egan can play 80 minutes. But Wade Egan's a slow dummy half. He's like, Tom Starling's a fast, explosive dummy half. Wade Egan's a slow dummy half, which is okay. He plays in slow motion. But even with Wade Egan, sorry, I'm getting so worked up, I just keep burping. But even with Wade Egan, slow-mo out of dummy half, okay, you're playing slow out of dummy half. That's like, it's obvious. That gives everyone else more time. But there's no support. Wade Egan gets out of dummy half. He's doing a slow-mo thing, but there's no support runner. So then Wade Egan just slowly runs into the defense, which looks even worse. Like, it's okay if you're slowing down, you're in your slow-mo baggy, but then you need someone exploding onto the ball, at least pushing up in support. When none of that's happening, Wade Egan just slowly runs into the defense, which is not fun to watch. Like, there's nothing fun here. And I forgot my actual point that I was trying to make. But the Wellington Phoenix, there's nothing fun with the Wellington Phoenix, watching them. The goal, the Wellington Phoenix, which we'll talk about later on, the goal they conceded was diabolical. And not only is the Wellington Phoenix not fun to watch, they have a thing that I hate in sports teams where their first instinct is to go backwards. Nah, like, have a crack. Do something, you know? Like try to work the ball forward, and if you can't, you can go back. Auckland FC, they go back, but they try to go forward. They play very direct if they want to. But what else do Auckland FC do? What else did Auckland FC do really well against the Wellington Phoenix last week? They win that second phase. They react quicker. They're more physical. They're faster. That's everything the Raiders did. And the Warriors were slow. The Warriors didn't react. The Warriors, in a rugby league sense, went backwards as often as possible. They didn't run backwards. Like, obviously, it's not a perfect comparison. I don't know the specific thing that the Warriors or a rugby league team would do when I'm thinking about football teams going backwards, like hockey teams going backwards. I don't know what that is, but it might just be running into the defense with nothing.
Well, like, one out passes and then kick it to the corner from 40 yards. No, don't contest the kick. Just make sure you get a good tackle in. Don't really rush up too much on the next tackle either, but just try to, keep a steady line. That kind of stuff, maybe.
That's exactly what it was, because what the Warriors last season, they led the NRL for one-pass hit-ups. So you could say the Warriors, they're really good at one-pass hit-ups. That's boring. That's not fun to watch. Now, this is where you get into we get into England cricket. England cricket, they want to entertain. They want to have fun. They want to inspire the fans. As if all their fans need inspiration. That's all right. That's okay. I don't care about that. I don't think fans really care about entertainment, because fans can have fun. I can have fun watching a team win by playing boring footy. That makes me feel good. If you get the win playing boring footy, I'm like, yeah, go you. At least you know who you are. At least you know what you do. So I'm not out here saying the Warriors are boring. I don't have fun watching the Warriors. They need to go all in on razzle dazzle and entertainment. No, no, no. I have fun with gritty wins. I have fun with hard working wins. If the Warriors want to play this way and they win, that's all right. That's your identity. That's how you play rugby league. But the Warriors don't win these games because they're not very good defensively and they don't actually do anything in attack. So it's like, okay, like you need to win games. That's the most important thing. Forget entertainment. I have fun watching a team win. And if you're losing, but you're having a crack, I can still have fun that way. But when you're playing boring rugby league, when you're playing a boring version of your sport and you're losing, and you've been doing it for 30 rounds, maybe 26, 27, 28 rounds, whatever it is, last season coming into this season, then we're starting to have issues. And if all of that's happening and you're selecting Jackson Ford as your starting prop to play 51 minutes, then we got real issues. So it's, I didn't have fun watching the Warriors. And that's just where we're at. And I don't see how it's going to change. Because this has been the case. I was thinking about this. This is a weird way to put it. The Warriors have been playing boring, unfun, losing footy with different players, different types of players, in different seasons, with different field dimensions in different countries. So what does that tell you? It tells you that they're playing a style of footy, if they do have a style, that isn't working. Because it didn't work on the wider dimensions. Like, how much dimension chat do we get with this Las Vegas game? It doesn't matter for the Warriors. They played this way on Aussie, New Zealand pitches, and they played the same way on different dimensions in Las Vegas, and they got the same result. So that's just where we're at with the Warriors. And the sneaky issue is that, like Matthew Johns' comments about a big Warriors forward pack, that falls into very lazy kind of racial stereotypes from previous generations. The style of play is the same. The Warriors do not play fun footy, and they haven't done for 27 rounds, 28 rounds. But like, there's like, people still have this myth, this illusion, this misconception that the Warriors are razzle-dazzle. There's nothing razzle-dazzle about the Warriors. Make that clear. All the Warriors do, as you said, they get the ball to the 40-meter line, the 50-meter line, and they put a bomb up and they tackle and they repeat it. And then some things go their way. They get good ball down the opposition end and they don't do anything. So, unfortunately, my optimistic tones from the summer turned into Jackson Ford starting at prop and playing 51 minutes. And that wasn't a fun experience at all.
Yeah, I mean, like, even the long kicks, bomb it up to one of their outside backs from the Raiders, and then whatever. Like, the Raiders did a lot of that too. And then, but the difference is, it's like Sean Snooker-Klokstad's going up for a high ball with like two guys shadowing over him. Like, one of them literally shadowing over him because for some reason he decided to catch it around his ankles and drop the ball.
I was going to say
another one, he kicked a guy in the head. So
he didn't go. Yeah, one of them he went up for. The other one he went down for.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. The elevator was faulty or something, but that got a little bit strange. But like, you can see he was under pressure from before he took the kick. Like, and it was in his head. It must have been in his head the way he was going up for that. Where in the way where like the Warriors just weren't putting the same kick pressure. It's not about getting up for a challenge. It's about making the guy putting some doubt in his head before he's able to catch the ball. Like, it's just that little things which should be a part of the game plan that they're trying to do that weren't there. And I mean, the half stuff was very weird because, like, and I suppose I got to ask, like, frame this as a question to you because I don't know, but I thought like the point of Luke Metcalf starting is that he's really fast and he's a good runner, and I can't remember him running the ball at all. And I also don't remember like because I assume also one of the reasons for Chanel Harris-Tavita to start would also be that he's a good kicker and he's he adds the left-footed element to that as well. But there was I mean, the long kicking, sure, I just mentioned like probably the bombs would have been a little more effective if you put a little more like wobble on them and put them a bit higher in the air. But also, that's only half of the kicking aspect. The other stuff is like, what are you doing in the 20, which is so clearly the area which is sponsored now. I noticed that on the thing. They've sponsored the red zone or whatever they want to call it. Weird. It's integrated sponsorship things, and these get very weird. But I can't really remember Luke Metcalf actually running the ball. The kind of thing that Sean Johnson would always be criticized for as well, by the way. Why isn't he running the ball enough? So the guy who's replaced him seems to not be running the ball enough either. And I also don't remember, it's not to say it didn't happen, I'm just saying it faded in the memory if it did. I don't remember a crossfield kick. I don't remember a grubber in behind. Like, I don't actually remember very many attacking risk-worthy, like have a go kind of moments when they did get there in the danger zone attack in the Raiders line. What I mostly remember is them just trying to shift it out to the left and running out of space. And on one of those occasions, once they'd done it 3 or 4 times and it was kind of obvious, the Raiders just jumped it and scored a 90-meter intercept try. So, I mean, surely that's not the intention of that halves combination, right? Like, surely there was a little more to that when you've got Tamati Martin, who does have a little bit more craft than those other two, sitting in the stands watching.
That's actually quite funny because last year I thought that all the Warriors' attacking shapes leads them into a cul-de-sac, leads them into a dead-end road where they get to the sideline and they don't actually have any space.
Yeah, they don't create the overlap they're trying to get.
The whole point of the shape is to get you on the outside of your opposition winger. And that never actually happened. And if it did happen, there's 3 defenders right there working hard to get across the field. That happens on a regular size field. So in Las Vegas, they're playing on a smaller field and the same thing happens. That's what I'm saying. You lose the players, you play the same. Different dimensions, it's the same problems. To the halves specifically, Metcalf did have 12 runs. Can you do some quick math? What's 70 divided by 12? Well, you could use a calculator,
like
but yeah.
5.5 or something. Yeah, hold on.
I was hoping you'd do the calculator so I could get a precise measurement. So, I mean,
result is undefined. I spelt it wrong.
Credit to Luke Metcalf, he did have 12 runs. That's the same amount of runs as Ali Leotawa. It's the same. It's more runs than Mitchell Barnett. So he did do that. What's 70 divided by 12?
5.8.
So he averaged 5.8 meters per run. The benchmark is 10 meters per run. So Ali Leotawa had 12 runs for 126 meters. That is more than 10 meters per run. So Luke Metcalf, his runs, they don't do anything. Chanel Harris-Tavita, 9 runs, which again is fairly solid, divided by 55 divided by 9. That's not going to be much.
6.1.
6.1. Congratulations. You get 6 meters per run. That probably, this is crazy. If you don't mind, continue with this. Kurt Capewell, 39 meters in 6 runs.
6.5. They're getting slightly higher each time.
Yeah,
they're getting a little bit better.
Slightly higher, but that is pathetic. Maratania Kore, the big, ruthless edge forward, whose main purpose is to just run over blokes, dent the line. 63 meters on 8 runs.
7.87.
What are we doing? Those dudes aren't making meters. So that's why you're doing your big old bomb from halfway and you're doing nothing. But to the halves, So I think they did try to run the footy. They did run the footy a little bit, but most of it was just shifting the ball to nowhere. This is a tangent. This is a bit of a tangent. So each week I roll through the junior rugby league clips and try to get the highlights, because that's what we do. We love to share all the excellent achievements or just mahi of our young Aotearoa athletes. There's a dude in the Bulldogs SG ball team, under 19, Bronson Rubin, who is from Kaiapoi, north of Christchurch. He's playing number 6. Respect to the halfback. I don't know who the halfback is. I think it's Conti. Each week, I watch those Bulldogs SG ball highlights, and those dudes score tries. They either score tries because they run, they dummy, they sidestep, or they score tries because they push up and support. So Bronson Rubin, this week, he scored a try off the back of a scrum. He fed the scrum, got the ball out the back of a scrum, scoots over to the left, throws a big dummy, and just bursts through the line to score. His second try, the Bulldogs make a break up the middle. I think it's the hooker. He's got a dude on his right. He's got Rubin on his left. He passes to the guy on his right, who then offloads to Rubin. So that dude coming out of dummy half had 2 support runners either side of him. That's when I'm thinking about rugby league, that's how I want my halves to play. I want them to challenge the line. I want them to throw dummies. I want them to sidestep and bring others into the game. I want them to push up and support. Your fullback, he always needs to be in support. Your half, he always needs to be in support. When the hooker gets out of dummy half, you need support. That's not happening with the Warriors, right? Like, there's no support runners. And Luke Metcalf, he's lively, he's fast. Like, in theory, he should be fast. But he was just kind of monstered by the Raiders. Chanel Harris-Tavita can do some funky things, but I wouldn't say he's, like, fast. So if you got one half who, in theory, is fast, but he doesn't really use it, and then you've got another half who isn't fast, then we're getting into, well, we're just regurgitating that the Warriors are slow and the Warriors are boring. And, I mean, that's who they are. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say. This again, going back to last season, the same shit with different players, different dimensions, different countries, however you want to portray it. Webster still doesn't want to play the youngsters. Vaimunga, Halasima, they can have, like, they're the most powerful, impactful players in the Warriors forward pack. Like, Halasima has more power, more footwork, more explosive ability than Barnett or Fisher Harris. They play different roles, but that is what he offers. Get him on the field. Get Vaimunga on the field. Just do something, you know? So that's the Warriors. And we'll, I don't know, they got to change something. But as is always the case, the Warriors, they don't represent New Zealand in rugby league. They're a New Zealand rugby league team. They're a rugby league franchise in New Zealand, but they don't represent New Zealand. All the fantastic players from New Zealand represent New Zealand. The New Zealand Kiwis represent New Zealand, and that's what we've got throughout the rest of those games in Las Vegas. Matthew Timoko was fantastic at center for the Raiders. Matthew Timoko, faster, more explosive than any of the Warriors' backline. I also thought Sebastian Kris was really good. Now, Sebastian Kris played at the 2022 World Cup for the Kiwis. Didn't get into the squad. He didn't play the last 2 Pacific Championships, though. But if Sebastian Kris is playing well, he can be in a Kiwi squad because he can play wing and he can play center. And he's big, he's mobile, and he rips in. Obviously, Joseph Tapine was there with the Raiders team as well. How many offloads did Joseph Tapine have? He had three. Three. So Joseph Tapine had 3 offloads. I think he got a sin bin as well, but he was a key contributor in that offloading style of footy for the Raiders. No Warriors player had 3 offloads. Joseph Tapine did. There are also a few minutes for Simi Sasangi, Ellerslie Jr. from Auckland, and Ata Mariota, Manurewa Jr. from Auckland as well. They were part of that Raiders team. And the Panthers, they had a good win over the Sharks. If you just want to watch the best rugby league, can't go past the Panthers. Like they just play the best rugby league. It is what it is. Unfortunately, Casey McLean didn't play much in that game. He got a concussion head knock early on, so he only played a few minutes. Moses Leota was pretty good through the middle. Watching out for Moses Leota without Fisher Harris, and the Panthers, like Moses Leota, without Fisher Harris, they just keep moving and grooving. They keep rolling forward. No issues. The most interesting thing with the Panthers, though, is Isaiah Papali'i stepping in. Scott Sorensen started on an edge, and then Papali'i came onto his edge, and I think Sorensen spent most of his minutes after that through the middle. Papali'i looks like a Panther. Both in terms of, like, you could say he looks like the animal panther because he was in all black. He was wearing black boots, I think. Like, he just looked like a panther, but he also looks like a Penrith Panther. He's like, I think if the Panthers are playing with Liam Martin on one edge and Isaiah Papali'i on the other edge, that's going to be fantastic. And I'm going to enjoy watching that. And I think I'm going to enjoy watching Isaiah Papali'i for the Panthers. But again, going back to the Kiwis, Sorensen and Papali'i played for the Kiwis last year. Britton Nakora wasn't there. Britton Nakora played for the Sharks alongside Glenora Jr., Braden Hamlin-Uele, Kale Iro, the Cook Island international, who played for Mount Albert, and we've got Ronaldo Mulatalo from Otara Ellerslie Jr. as well. But Britton Nakora, he's just one of the best edge forwards for New Zealand. But then you've got a nice little pool of depth there because Scott Sorensen's playing edge and middle. In fact, Scott Sorensen and Isaiah Papali'i, they play edge and middle for the Kiwis. And they're doing a similar job for the Panthers, but it was also good to see Britton Nakora playing for the Sharks. So I like the plenty of options there at center with Timoko and Kris playing well for the Raiders. But then the edge forward zone where I don't think Manata Neokori was that good. I'd rather have Jacob Laban playing as a youngster. Jacob Laban, who played for the Māori All-Stars a few weeks ago, he is Samoan as well, but I think he can be a factor at edge forward for the Kiwis. But Papali'i and Sorensen are playing at a very high level for a team that wins a lot of games as well. So that's, I don't know. There's like the Panthers, again, if you want to watch the best rugby league, you've got to watch the Panthers because they play rugby league at the highest level. And they lost Fisher Harris, but they gained Isaiah Papali'i. They've got Scott Sorensen, who in the Bloke in a Bar podcast, Scott Sorensen, born and raised in Australia, has that whānau connection to the Aotearoa Kiwis through the Sorensen whānau. He loves New Zealand. He loves playing for New Zealand Kiwis. He just talked extremely positively about the Kiwis environment and what is happening in New Zealand Rugby League. So Scott Sorensen, born and raised in Australia, hearty Aotearoa Kiwis player. Moses Leota, fantastic middle forward. But it was a bummer not to see Casey McLean because, again, born and raised in Sydney, 18 years old, 19 years old, whatever he is right now. I think he's still 18. Let me check. One click of the mouse. 18 years old. He chose to play for New Zealand ahead of New South Wales and Australia, which, I don't know, seems important, but you've also got Preston Ricky there. You've also got Trent Toilau. The Panthers also have David Fale in their backline depth, who was a Maris Jr. in Auckland. You've got Jesse McLean, the younger brother of Casey McLean. So the Panthers are still playing the highest level of rugby league, and they still have very interesting Kiwi-NRL wrinkles in their team. A lot of chat there. You got any final words on the rugby league section?
Well, I mean, if the Warriors were boring this week, the Dragons start next week. So, we have a race to the bottom and see how that goes. Neither team seems to have a half combination. So we await the other side of that equation. Well, I do.
Yeah, I don't.
With fear, yeah.
Because
fear and hesitation. So
the Dragons, they don't really like Aotearoa. They don't have many Kiwi-NRL juniors in their system. So that's why I tap out on the Dragons. Like, they're just not doing the recruitment from Aotearoa that a lot, if not all, of the NRL teams are.